In the 13th century, storm rose from the steppes of Central Asia, unstoppable force of cavalry, discipline, and strategy that reshaped the known world. The Mongol Empire, forged under the ruthless genius of Genghis Khan, became the largest contiguous empire in human history. But how did this group of nomadic tribesmen conquer kingdoms, shatter civilizations, and crush vastly larger armies? Was it their weapons, their tactics, or something more primal? Let us travel back and uncover why the Mongol army was virtually unbeatable, and why even the mightiest empires trembled at the thunder of their hooves. The story begins not with glory, but with survival. The Mongols were born in a harsh, unforgiving landscape. The winds of the steppe didn't teach mercy, they taught resilience. Every Mongol child learned to ride a horse by the age of 3. Bows were not toys, they were tools of life and death. By adolescence, a Mongol warrior could shoot with terrifying accuracy while riding at full speed. This wasn't just culture, it was survival, and survival bred warriors. But raw talent alone doesn't win wars. What made the Mongol army so deadly was the mind behind it. All Genghis Khan, born as Temujin, abandoned by his tribe, orphaned, and hunted. Temujin's childhood was a constant fight against betrayal and death. These scars forged not just a survivor, but a visionary. He united the warring Mongol clans, not by diplomacy, but by sheer will, loyalty, and calculated brutality. He didn't just build an army, he built an unstoppable war machine. So what made the Mongol army so lethal? Mobility, precision, fear, intelligence, discipline. First, mobility. The Mongol horse was not majestic like the European destrier. It was small, scrappy, and tireless. Each warrior had several horses and could ride for days without rest. This meant Mongol armies could appear where they were least expected, crossing deserts, rivers, and even mountain ranges. They could strike and vanish like ghosts. Their speed was unheard of. Mongol horde could travel over 100 miles in a single day, allowing them to outflank, surround, or escape any force. Enemies never knew where the Mongols would hit next, and that uncertainty was terrifying. Second, their weapons. The Mongol composite bow was a technological marvel. Made of wood, bone, and sinew, it could shoot farther and with more power than any European longbow of the time. It was light, efficient, and deadly in the hands of a mounted archer. Mongol didn't just shoot one arrow. He fired volleys while riding in a full gallop, hitting targets with devastating precision. They weren't just warriors, they were death from a distance. But brute strength alone didn't build an empire. Tactics made them masters of the battlefield. The Mongols mastered psychological warfare. Before even engaging, they'd spread fear-burning cities, executing nobles, sending survivors to tell stories of horror. Entire towns surrendered out of fear alone. On the battlefield, they used deception like an art form. One famous tactic was the feigned retreat. Mongols would attack, pretend to panic, and flee, drawing the enemy into an ambush. Once surrounded, the enemy had no chance. It wasn't luck, it was chess, and the Mongols were always 5 moves ahead. They also used signals, flags, and smoke to communicate across the chaos of battle. Commands were clear, coordinated, and obeyed without question. Discipline was absolute. Disobedience meant death even if the soldier was successful in battle. This ensured loyalty, unity, and a level of coordination unheard of in medieval warfare. Then there was their intelligence network. The Mongols had an early form of military espionage. Spies and scouts were sent months ahead to map terrain, evaluate defenses, and bribe or coerce local leaders. They knew the strengths and weaknesses of every target before launching a campaign. They even adopted foreign technologies using Chinese. Engineers to build siege weapons and Persian scholars to improve logistics. Wherever they went, they learned, adapted, and evolved. Knowledge was power, and the Mongols devoured it. Perhaps the most terrifying element of the Mongol army was its brutality. When a city resisted, the consequences were catastrophic. Entire populations were slaughtered: men, women, and children. Cities were burned to the ground. The message was clear: resist, and you will be erased. This wasn't senseless violence, it was calculated terror. By making an example of a few, they avoided resistance from many. It worked. Cities often surrendered without a fight, hoping for mercy. The Mongols didn't need to conquer everyone. Fear did most of the work. Their system of meritocracy was another weapon. Unlike European kingdoms, where nobility mattered more than skill, the Mongol hierarchy was built on merit. If you were brave, loyal, and competent, you rose through the ranks, regardless of birth. That meant the best rose to the top. Genghis Khan promoted people based on performance, not bloodline. This inspired loyalty, encouraged excellence, and ensured that leaders in the field were warriors first, not bureaucrats. Another often overlooked reason for their dominance was their logistics and organization. The Mongols used a decimal system, organizing their army into units of 10, 100, 1,000. They also had a communication system, the Yam, or Mongol postal relay. Riders with fresh horses were stationed every 25 miles, allowing information to travel faster than any other empire at the time. Coordination across thousands of miles was possible, and that's how they held such a vast territory with no modern technology. Let's not forget their strategic vision. The Mongols didn't just win battles. They planned campaigns with cold, long-term precision. From the invasion of Persia to the conquest of China, every step was calculated. Even when Genghis Khan died, his successors continued his legacy with relentless ambition. Kublai Khan completed the conquest of China. Subutai, one of Genghis Khan's greatest generals, orchestrated invasions that stretched from Korea to the gates of Vienna. He defeated European knights, Muslim sultans, and Chinese emperors often at the same time. It wasn't just about expansion, it was about domination. So why did it all work? Because the Mongol army wasn't just an army. It was a system, a culture, a code, a philosophy of war where fear, speed, and intelligence ruled. Where discipline met innovation, where brutality met strategy. They didn't rely on castles, navies, or grand cities. They relied on the horse, the bow, the mind, and the unwavering belief that nothing was beyond their reach. In the end, the Mongol war machine changed the world. They connected east and west, opened trade routes like the Silk Road, and influenced military strategy for centuries. Their legacy is written not just in blood, but in the very borders of modern nations. They were nomads, but their impact was permanent. So the next time you hear the thunder of hooves in the distance, remember it might just be the echo of an empire that was once virtually unbeatable. If this deep dive into the Mongol army blew your mind, imagine what's coming next. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single saga of history's most legendary warriors. Hit that like button if you felt the power of the Horde, and drop a comment telling us, which army should we cover next? History is not just about the past. It's about understanding the power of strategy, discipline, and vision. And if you want to master life like Genghis mastered war, this channel is your battlefield. Subscribe, engage, dominate.